Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of Procurement Nuggets. This is David Nash, the question of the day guy. And in this episode, I want to talk about payment methods that are commonly used in public agencies. One of the other episodes, I mentioned contract risk, and one of those risks being price risk, which has to do with how the vendor is going to be paid. The contract language should stipulate what the vendor has to do to get paid, and it usually involves submitting an invoice. In our general terms and conditions, boilerplate, we usually have a paragraph in there that tells the vendor how to submit an invoice, the address where it has to go, and so on. And of course, this all hangs on whether there is proper acceptance by the agent. The first one I want to talk about is completion payment. And these are usually reserved for things that are short term, 2, 3 weeks, a month or so, one and dones. Back when I was with the city of Fort Lauderdale, I did a contract one time for the replacement of an air conditioning unit in a computer service room. And it took 2 to 3 weeks. The vendor came in, did the work. The city signed off on it. Everything worked fine. They submitted an invoice. We cut them one check as a completion payment for that project. The next one is partial payments. Partial payments usually come about when we are ordering supplies and we don't receive all of the items in one shipment. For example, we order 100 desks, 60 of them come in. The vendor's not going to wait around for the rest of the desks that come in to get his money. He wants to submit his invoice, and we're fine with that. So it comes into finance, they marry it up with our acceptance form, and they cut partial number one. 2, 3 weeks later, here come the other 40 desks, and we count those, check for damage, everything's fine. We send the acceptance form up to finance, they marry it up with the vendor's invoice, and they cut partial number two. And of course, there could be 3, 4, 5, it depends how the shipments come in. The next one I want to talk about is progress payments. And these are sometimes confused with milestone payments, and they are not the same thing. Progress payments are made in a timed sequence that is not tied to specific performance by the contractor or acceptance by the agency. Oftentimes, you take maybe 80% of the value of the contract, divided into the number of months the project is estimated to last, and then you hold, let's say you hold back 20% until the work is done. This type of payment puts a risk on the agency because checks are going out and the vendor, you may see progress going on, but there's no specific performance that's tied to any of these payments. Sometimes progress payments are also used as a method of financing small businesses because they provide working capital, which is sometimes hard for these vendors to obtain. And then we come to milestone payments. And this does shift the risk over to the vendor because they're not getting paid until specific milestones are accomplished. And let's take a construction project, for example. The contractor comes in, flattens the land out, clears it off, digs a ditch where for the base of the building where it's going to stand, and into that ditch goes the conduit, the plumbing pipe, the rebar, and all of that gets inspected before the concrete truck comes. So once that inspection is passed, you cut milestone number one. Then the concrete vendor comes in, the concrete's poured, sits a few days, it's checked, signed off by the inspector, you cut milestone number two. Now here come the bricklayers and the masons, they start putting the brick up, or if it's wood, you put a wooden wall up. When you get up to the top, put the roof straps on and get ready for the concrete pour for the header. The inspector comes in, signs off on that, and here's milestone number three, and so on through the project. So it's a very good way to reduce the risk for the agency because milestones are tied to specific performance and acceptance. And then we come to advance payments. which is payments made before work actually begins. And as government agencies, public agencies, we are uncomfortable with that. We like to get our work done before we pay for it. But there are any number of reasons why we might make advance payments. There might be a mobilization fee that's built into the contract that the contractor has to get before he even starts working. Getting equipment out there, getting the project manager's trailer set up, and so on. That's going to warrant an advance payment. Subscriptions, memberships that agencies pay for, training. If you ever go to a training class, the agency is going to pay for that class before you sit in on it. So we do make advance payments. We're just not like crazy about it. Then we want to talk a bit about withholding payments. I mentioned that earlier when I was talking about progress payments. We often hold back 5, 10, 15% of a project until it's finished and the final inspection and a certificate of occupancy and all that jazz takes place. Just got to be careful that it's reasonable amount and you're not being punitive about it. You're not jerking the vendor around to get his final payment. Keep in mind that if your state or federal financing that you've got has any Prompt Payment Act tied to it, that you're complying with that law. If it's 45 days, 50 days, whatever, that the vendor has to pay, then make sure you're staying within that. Commercial financing is where the contractor gets the funds himself. We typically don't get involved in financing contractors, other than in the instance where I talked about under progress payments. They are sometimes used as a method of financing small businesses. So if you've got an MBWB, DBE program out there in trying to expand that, you might take a look at using progress payments. And finally, something we need to keep in mind is assignment of claims or assignment clauses. Make sure you've got one in your boilerplate. Vendors are bought and sold all the time. Suppliers are bought and sold all the time. You want to retain the right to disapprove of the assignment of the contract. You want to vet this new contractor before you turn your contract over to them. The original contract may have been awarded under the RFP process, and the new vendor that's buying the contract or buying the other company didn't even make the short list. So we want to be able to say, no, we're not transferring that contract over. We'll terminate it. But now you've got to get out there and put another solicitation out to replace that. So hope you find this information of use. If you're interested in my question of the day, please visit my website, qoftheday.net, and submit a contact form. I'll be happy to add you to the list. I send out an email 5 days a week. Hope to see you here on a future episode of Procurement Nuggets. Take care.